what's up, friends? Rob here, the Medicare minister, and I'm back with a brand new Spitting Fire podcast. And I'm here with Miss Emily Trevino, and she is going to spit some fire today. Miss Emily, will you say hi to everybody real quickly?
Hey, everybody. How's it going? Hope everyone's having a great week.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I'm excited to dive in today into the podcast and learn more about what has made you successful, and you share some things with our audience that I know is going to empower them. But before we do that, I just want to encourage everybody to subscribe. Click the subscribe button below, click the little bell. That way you're notified whenever fresh interviews like this drop. And as always, go and watch a lot of the motivational content that we put on our channel, because our goal ultimately is to inspire all of you. I like to say, put fresh wind in all of your sails. And I believe motivation, it should be like taking a bath. You should do it every single day. And sometimes you should do it multiple times a day, okay? That you can never have too much motivation and inspiration. So I want to encourage all of you to do that. Like, comment, share it with somebody who you think needs that encouragement today to pursue their dreams and to not quit. So Emily, we have you today on the podcast. And what I'd like to do is start here is just tell us a little bit about yourself. Maybe give us like a bio story, where you live, what industry you're in, things like that.
Okay, well, obviously I'm Emily Trevino and I'm based out of Houston, Texas. I've actually lived all over the world. My parents were, well, they're retired Navy now, but they were in the Navy. So I tend to get my people skills from having to build new friendships every couple of years.
Right.
So I grew up in Corpus Christi, or I should say that's where I graduated high school, and then graduated college in San Angelo, and then moved to Houston for the job opportunities, and found my way in the insurance industry about 2 years after college, and I've been doing that ever since. So just so you can't guess my age, probably a little over a decade.
Okay.
So that's kind of what I've been up to.
Okay. And so tell us a little bit about the success that you've had in the insurance industry. Is this Medicare? Is this ACA? Is this just a combination of various products and services?
Right. So I actually got my start originally by working with an insurance carrier. Well, actually, I started as a broker, but that's when all the CMS guidelines hit, which is who regulates Medicare. And that really put a damper on how we marketed, because we could just talk to anybody about it. Where now with Medicare, you almost have to wait for the senior to just come up to you and be like, do you sell Medicare? Can you help me?
Right.
So I was new. I was like 23, 24. I had no idea what to do. And so I ended up going to work for a carrier. But I think that basically my whole life, I've always had to learn to meet new people and to be able to network. And I was actually, most people don't believe this, but I'm actually more introverted by nature. Like, I like my space and quiet, but if I have to, if I'm in a place of an opportunity and not in a way of an opportunistic way, but just if there's value in a relationship and I could bring value to someone and vice versa, then I definitely want to network with people. So, but I've started in the Medicare business. And then when ACA started, we actually jumped on that bandwagon immediately. So we've been doing ACA business since its inception, which has been pretty huge for us in what we do.
Right. And I'd heard in another interview that you did about 50 million in Aca Premium. Is that correct?
Yeah, our agency, not me personally, but our agency does bring in a little over 50 million in premium for the ACA side alone. We sell a lot of Medicare Advantage, which in Houston, it's generally zero premium. So we can't measure that the same way.
Right. Yeah. Right. No, I totally get it. I love what you said. You talked about bringing value to relationships. I want to come back to that in just a second, but I also want to go back to where you said you had to travel a lot because I think it was your dad was in the Navy. How do you think that contributed, moving from place to place, kind of like maybe going to a new school or meeting new friends? How do you think that prepared you for what you're doing today and contributed to your success today?
Well, it's about being uncomfortable. Really. It's about, man, I got a little nervous there, like thinking about how uncomfortable it was to walk into a new school in whatever age I was in, but really that's what I think it all stems from is, you can either sit down in, your fourth grade class at a brand new school and just,
Right.
be sad that you have no friends and you left them all behind.
Yeah.
Or you can say, look, I need to get to know people because I want to have a good time and I want to meet people and I want to have friends and I want to participate. And I'm really big on FOMO. Like I feel like I'll miss out on anything. So I just chose option 2 and to be more of a victor of your situation than a victim.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's definitely spitting some fire early here on the podcast. And I believe so many people run from the uncomfortable. Would you agree with that? And that hinders and sabotages them from really having success.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, nobody wants to be uncomfortable, right? Like we're not like, hey, let's just go put ourselves in the most uncomfortable situations. But at the same time, it's how you can overcome that adversity, which will drive you to do bigger and better things, right? I know a lot of people who are comfortable and you know what, at the end of the day, whatever people want to do, that's completely fine. Like if you're a comfortable person and you just like doing what your normal everyday thing is, that's cool. Like there's not a right or a wrong way to do it. But if you want results and you want things to change in your life, whether it's personal or professional, then you're going to have to get real dirty and real uncomfortable. And it's not always fun.
Right.
And I try to give people an example. I went to the 1% in event with Cody Askins this past January, and I knew nobody there, right? Except for Justin Brock, because I inquired about the event through him. So, I mean, I could just sit at my table and not talk to anybody, or I can get to know every single person in the room, which honestly, you would think you had enough time for a whole weekend, but you really don't. So it's, it's like taking those extra steps and doing that extra bit of work that really helps, get you a little bit further. And you got to make yourself comfortable, right?
Right. And there's no way that you write 50 million in Aca Premium, have a 7-figure agency, unless you do some uncomfortable things, right? Most people are not going to get to that level doing just the comfortable.
Right, exactly. And you're going to have really uncomfortable conversations. You're going to have uncomfortable situations. And for me, a lot of people don't like confrontation, which I don't like dramatic confrontation, but I do like confrontation when there is a positive result at the end. Right. So if we have to have a tough conversation, it doesn't feel good. I don't want to do it, but I will, just so that we can move forward.
Yeah. I just feel like, and of course we all battle, it's human nature to stay in that comfortable lane. You got to really push yourself. I like to say it this way. A lot of people want the delight, but they don't want to do with the discipline to get to the delight.
Right. My grandmother used to say, she would say, sweet isn't sweet without sour. There you go. So, yeah, that made a lot of sense.
So let me go back to, because you talked about providing value in relationships. So if I may, just real quickly, how do you believe you provide value to people?
Well, really, it's about problem solving for people, right? And it could be related to your business or it can be related to you personally. But I like to interact with people where I am of value to them. Like I would feel terrible if I go somewhere and I'm only the one consuming the value and I'm not giving anything in return. And a good example is I actually came to y'all's offices. I actually don't think that you were there that day, but I came to Tupelo and I felt kind of bad because Justin's just sharing all this knowledge about how he runs his office. And that wasn't really something we were doing at the time. And so I was hoping I hope I can bring something to him that would be a value that he can take on and help scale the business. So, I don't like, to be the one always consuming it. I want to make sure that I can do something in return, even if it's something very small. Those are true partnerships when you want everyone to succeed and you applaud for each other all the way to the top.
Yeah. And so what about, let me reverse that. What do you look for, whether you're hiring agents, because you have about 60 people in your office combined, is that right, roughly?
In our office, we have about 10, but we have a downline of 1099 contracted agents as well. So yeah. So
whenever you're looking to recruit maybe, or looking to build relationships like with the Codys or the Justins or other, what kind of value are you looking for them to bring to you? Because you're talking about bringing value. Is it more of just value, just general value? Is it specific to your particular industry, or what do you look for when you're looking to build those?
Well, I think everybody has a different season that they're in their life and their business. And so sometimes, going to a lot of these events with Justin and Cody, like Medicare Con, and we're going to be going to 8%. Sometimes the type of value, I can get value out of anything. Honestly, it's the lenses that I look through, even if it's something obvious that you hear all the time. If you're not actively implementing it, then you need to be hearing it, right? So I can pull value out of anything, but I really look for people who are positive, that have goals. So when we bring in agents to our organization, whether they work for us or they're contracted with us through the carriers, we try to come in at a partnership attitude where look, we know what you're going to struggle with, so we're going to help solve those problems, and then you're going to see what we need help with as well, right? And sometimes they get a little bit more complicated and it's not as black and white like that, but for us, we just look for, it's really the attitude, their values, who they are as people. Like, I love doing business with family oriented people. I will do a business with anybody, but we just like loyalty, we like strength, we like courage, those types of things, because then you can have the same conversations without it being weird.
No, I love what you say. You were spitting some fire there just for a few minutes, but I love what you said, that I can get value pretty much out of anything. Is that something that you were talking about, the lenses that you look through? Is that something that you were born with? Is that something that you just cultivated in your life? Because I'm a firm believer that I can be around anyone and learn something. I always want to try to learn something. I don't always think it's the ultra hype, successful necessarily. It could be anyone that could teach me a nugget that could change the trajectory of my business or my life. So were you born with that, or is that something you just learned to cultivate in your life?
No, I was not born with that. Actually, a year ago in January, my business partner, Kim, and we actually went to an event where we hired our business coach. His name is JT Fox.
Sure.
And he really made me realize I'm looking at things the wrong way, right? So I owned a business, but I was still in the corporate mindset. So I was like a corporate entrepreneur, if you will, where I'm trying to run my business like corporate. My expectations are very tunnel vision. And he really broadened like my eyesight from there, and so he's really big on efficiency, and whether it be through your calendar or the information or the content, and it's all about action, taking massive action all the time. And you're going to see that across all these coaches that are out there. It's like, take action, Coach Bird, Greg Cardone's, and JT5, they all say the same thing. And so I had to make those adjustments in my own attitude, really. And it's not that I was negative, it was just that I was looking at it through a different lens.
Sure. So you had to change the lens. And I've heard just a common thread as we've talked today for the past few minutes is I see a lot about investing in yourself. I've seen you go to on social media, these different conferences. You talked about getting a coach. Why is it so important that you invest in yourself? But just in general, for those that are watching, why is it important to you invest in yourself?
Well, the thing is you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
And I didn't know a lot. And I'm only in my little bubble. And you are as successful as who you're around, right? So I try to find people. And I've actually always noticed that I've done this. I try to find like the experts at whatever it is. So I did my first sales job doing telecom sales for small businesses. I found the top salespeople and would start asking them questions and start hanging out with them and just kind of hearing the way they would sell, I guess I've always been a nugget digger, if you will, because I've just naturally done that.
Hey, nugget digger, you know what I mean? I don't know.
That sounds really weird, but
no. If I have one at 8%, don't hate, because I'll definitely find a way to monetize it.
Yeah. So I just think that, I guess that's just, I believe in investing in yourself. You may not always have the money to do it. When I was just starting out right out of college, I was a single mom. I didn't always have the funds to go and drop even $1,000 on an event. But nowadays, there is so much free information. I mean, you have to really hold yourself accountable to wanting to learn it. So
So what is the greatest, I guess, area, or what is the greatest thing that you've seen or shift in your life since investing in yourself? Because you talked about going to Cody's conferences, obviously been here with us, Justin, and just being around these experts. What is the greatest thing that you've seen change in your life?
well, I mean, I guess it would start since last year when we went to our business coach. We learned how to set up our entities correctly, and we learned how to invest our money differently.
That's good.
So that we're not just constantly spending on things that aren't making us money. It's actually shifted my focus on even how I raise my kids. And really trying to improve and let them understand, like my parents graduated high school, they never went to college, and they taught me what they could. And so now I need to teach my kids what my parents taught me and then some. And that's how legacies are made. And that's how the wealthy people do it as well, is they're just constantly passing down information and setting up their future generations for success. So I mean, that doesn't really answer your question, but I guess for me, it's just changed my life completely based on my attitude and what's available out there.
Sure. And would you say too that when you've taken when you were betting on yourself and investing in yourself, that the universe, I call them God, but for out there watching, we have different people that are watching this video. Do you feel like it's opened up more doors for you when you begin to invest in yourself? It's built more relationships, open up more opportunities.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, even your business acumen changes, your verbiage, your knowledge, the way you talk to people. When I go to these events, I mean, I don't just take notes. Like I have a certain way I take notes, so I know what action items to take and what I can implement immediately. And then I have to review the notes, and then it's kind of a process, which is a little exhausting when you go to so many events.
Yeah.
But yes, I feel like more opportunities come, and that's why we keep going to this stuff, and it's not cheap sometimes too, but we keep going because there's momentum. It's like it's just like one opportunity lands itself to another, and I've provided value for people, so they're like, hey, like let's work together on this project, or let's do this together. And so it has definitely, and I mean, even my prayers have changed. I call them prayer. I actually call them more my conversations with the Lord. The way we talk is a lot different than I would have 2 years ago, when you're just praying for patience, which I don't pray for that no more. But so it's just our conversations are different, and you can do different things. So
sure. So with that said, why do you think so many people are scared to invest in these things? I call it investing in yourself. Why do you think there's such a big challenge and a hurdle there?
I mean, my hesitation, I can only speak for myself. Like my biggest hesitation is I always thought everything was a scam. And it's just the way that we've been programmed. If somebody calls you on the phone, it's a scam. The telemarketer is a scam, and you're like, well, but now online, like there's so much information out there that, see, I have like a love-hate relationship with the internet, because there's so much information out there that it's great, but then at the same time, there's so much information that it's not great, and it's misinformation. So I think people just have an overall trust issue, and that's why we're getting back to a place where referrals and relationships are becoming more valuable. And actually, I think Brad Lee on Dropping Bombs podcast mentioned relationships are a commodity now, and that's something that I think is really important that people need to realize is the dynamics of business are changing. It went through this phase where it was relationships, and then it went to, I want the best quality for the cheapest price. And now I think it's going back to relationships.
Sure. No, I totally agree. Can you think of a defining moment at one of these events that you said, and let me put the context to it. I love what the Codys and Justins and others are doing. Just, yes, we do have competition. We live in America, but it's healthy competition. And I love what they're promoting is collaboration over competition. And we all win. There's enough to go around. It's not a scarcity mindset thing. Was there a defining moment for you at whether 8% or Medicare Con or whatever that first event was that you begin to say, you know what, I'm changing this lens, and I'm going to be able to trust. I'm going to get that momentum going in my business and in my life. Was there a defining moment for you?
So for me, I actually like to get to know people before I get to an event, if I know who they are. So like I actually been watching Cody before I knew about all these events. And I've never been to 8% actually,
Right.
but I
Okay.
saw on his social media, I pay attention to like little small details. I pay attention to how people walk into a room, things like that, because all of that, and it's not in a bad way. I'm not saying we judge people in a bad way, but we judge based on how we socially want to interact with people.
Sure. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and just in the same way, I interacted with him on Facebook before I even went to Medicare Con, before we even went to your offices. And you can just tell a lot about people by what they post, how they speak, how they walk, what pictures they post, and things like that. So, going to these events, my lens is I was already somewhat trusting when we walked into the event because I did a little bit of, I've been watching,
Right.
and a lot of people are watching.
Right.
You just may not know about it.
Right. Right.
So.
Yeah. Well, no, I like that. I definitely like the fact that you're doing your due diligence, if you will. You're checking things out, and you can tell definitely that it's paid off. And like I said, I always see you going to events and always see you invest in yourself. And it's just amazing to me how many people just won't bet on themselves. And I wonder if that's, maybe family, friends, whether that's just, a combination of many things. But did you ever struggle with that, really betting on yourself, or have you always just been that optimistic, even though you were introverted, but
yeah,
optimistic, I can win, I can do this thing?
Well, for me, I just feel like I've always kind of thought through the decisions, like what are the pros and cons, just real quick, and if I can deal with the con. But it's funny because my husband, he's originally from Denmark. Okay. And so he was raised there, and they have a different mentality. And so having to get him to see what I do in the entrepreneur side and invest, and he's actually starting to invest in himself a lot, which is amazing. But people are scared. I mean, they just naturally think it's a scam. And it's not that they don't believe in themselves. They just don't believe in the product, and a lot of times it's because the product that's being sold to them is not showing results. Right. It's just like, hey, buy my package. But it didn't say what the package results are, like what you can expect after the fact. So that's kind of, you have these people who are really great marketers, but they're not really great salespeople. And you need to have a little bit of both, and you need to sell the results. And I have to give my coach that credit because he's the one that started telling me about that.
Awesome. Well, speaking of all this and investing in yourself, what do you think has been the number one key to your success?
I definitely think it's that I'm not afraid to be uncomfortable. I really do think, I mean, originally when you asked me that, I was thinking about, how I look at people as partners. But really, after we were talking, I was like, maybe it's because I'm okay being uncomfortable. I don't like it. It's not fun. But I will do what it takes to get the job done no matter what. And if I fall on my face, I mean, the worst that's going to happen is you fall on your face. That's it.
There you go.
You're not going to die. You're not going to die. You're going to survive, and you're going to get on to the next one. And that's it. So,
well, and what would you say to like the person who's watching this that says, yeah, but at your level, seems like you're doing really well for yourself, but would you say there's a next level of being uncomfortable to go to the next level?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when you have to get in front of people who are multimillionaires and billionaires, and you're having to have, conversations with them where you just have to kind of fit in, or they don't want to hang out with you. You know what I mean?
Sure, yeah.
So you have to be able to fit in, and you have to have the right, I guess business acumen if you're in a business setting, or you have to kind of know current events and stuff. So you have to kind of be relatable in a way and fit in. But there's definitely a lot of ways. I mean, up until recently, I'm really uncomfortable being on podcasts and videos and putting yourself out there because, we're putting ourselves out there. If someone doesn't like what we're wearing or what we say or how we say it, they're going to start throwing stones. And unfortunately, that's uncomfortable in itself. But if you don't do it, then you might be missing an opportunity to help somebody else,
Right.
So, but it's also important to know that I did not always start out like where I'm at right now. I mean, I started with no relationships, no friendships here in a huge city, by the way, that I knew nobody and I had a child, so having to work through that, I mean, talk about uncomfortable.
Right.
It's pretty uncomfortable.
Yeah. So let me ask you this: why didn't you quit? What was your why? What kept you going in the midst of all these uncomfortable seasons?
I mean, I would like to say it was my son because I don't want, I mean, I don't want him to be without, I don't want him to be without food or
Sure.
daycare or, education or a
Yeah.
home. I mean, but I've been hungry before as a
Right.
single mom. I mean, I've had to choose before between feeding my son and feeding myself. And I had to give my last, $30 to go buy formula until I got paid again the next few days. So I've been there and I'm not going back. So
Yeah.
there's some gears that start grinding when you start for a couple days.
Well, I grew up with a single mom, so I definitely have a big heart. Our ministry that my wife and I have had, has always been geared towards single moms. My mom was a single mom, had me when she was 15, my brother when she was 17, and I've been poor too, and it's not fun. Back then we used to have to collect cans to just sometimes eat and wear the same clothes. So it's definitely a strong motivator to not go back to that place.
Yeah, but it's also hard too because when you have your children that don't have to face a struggle, it's like, well, how do you get them to understand? Because when I grew up, I did not. I grew up in a middle class family. My mom was in the military. She met my stepdad there. She was a single mom for a little bit, and she met my stepdad in the military. But I mean, we lived a pretty average middle class family. So for me to get to a low point and then have to overcome that, a lot of that was pride, like, of course I could have always asked my parents for money, but I just didn't want to.
Right. Yeah.
Because I held myself accountable for the choices that I made. So I need to make it work. And I think that's a big factor in it. And so now when I look at my kids, I'm like, man, how are we going to get you guys
Sure.
to, where you understand and you get those same gears grinding that I did without having to go through the struggle,
Sure. So you talked about the number one or key to your success has been just being willing to be uncomfortable. I'll follow it up with this question here is if there was one word that you would use to describe yourself, what would that one word be?
I would say probably energetic.
Okay.
Most people think I have a lot of energy, whether it's a good one or a bad one, depending on the day.
Definitely translates. I love being around high energy people, and I Ryan Lodi a while back, and man, that guy, I was so pumped when I wanted to go work out and do everything.
Oh man, he just his energy is just completely contagious. He's just a super positive guy. I mean, he definitely is a motivator.
Yeah,
Sure.
I love being around high energy, passionate people because that's how I live my life. But so being energetic, part B to that question would be, how has being energetic contributed to your success?
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
How has being an energetic person contributed to your overall success?
I think because I am more approachable to conversations and relationships. And I think because I have a lot of energy, you can hear the passion that I have for example, like if we're having a new agent come on board, like I want them to be very successful. I don't want to bring people on just to hang their contract. Like I want them to make their life-changing money so it can change their family. And if I have the right tonality and I have the energy behind it, they can really feel the passion versus if you're just like, hi, can I have your contract? Right. It's just not as good.
Right. So is that just always been a personality trait? Is that the way you were born? Is it something you cultivated or a combination of both?
No, I was definitely born that way. I'm always a little weird, like funny weird, I mean, I have like a trampoline in my office and I'm always dancing around the office and stuff. It's just, I just have a lot of energy and I got to get it out. And then usually by like 7:00, I'm done.
Sure. No, I totally get it. And so how do you think in the office space or just in general, do you just feel like you're an atmosphere changer when you're projecting that energy, projecting that passion? Why is it so important for you to have that type of atmosphere?
I do think it definitely changes the dynamics in the office a little bit. I mean, I walk around, most of our clients are Vietnamese, right? So I don't speak Vietnamese,
Right.
but I walk around and I'm like saying hi to them and I'm very personable and it just makes them feel more welcoming. So the culture in our office and also for our employees. I mean, our employees know I'm always asking how their weekend was and, what's going on with their kids and their, spouses and things like that. And so, I mean, I'm just naturally interested. I don't just do it just to do it. I do want to know. So I think it does change the atmosphere a little bit. I don't really know what the atmosphere is like when I'm not here because I'm not here,
Right.
but it's probably not as crazy as
Sure.
when I come in like a tornado, like,
Yeah. Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. So, and obviously it's working for you. You've achieved a lot of success. And so you talked a little bit about being genuinely interested. Why is authenticity so important to you?
well, because you can tell when people aren't, when they're not really interested, I mean, I've had people that I know personally that were somewhat friends of ours or colleagues that, are just like, oh, how's your kids? I
Right.
mean, I just don't think you should be asking and wasting people's time if you're not genuinely interested. If you
Right.
don't really want to know, don't ask me and just get
Right.
straight to the point. Because
Right.
I'm kind of it's weird because I am kind of a direct person. So like if I have something on my mind, I'm going to talk about it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like I do believe in genuine relationships. We may always agree on things, or I may not agree on something they're doing, but I do care about people and I do want to root for people all the way to the top. So I think that that's just, I don't know why I'm like that. I just like it. I'm competitive and I come from team sports and I just think it just naturally just comes that way. I don't know.
Yeah. And I think it's important in the industry that we're both in, right? Whether it's with our ACA clients, Medicare clients, or other, under 65 health clients, because, people can read that. People can tell if you're just out to get money from them or not genuinely interested in helping in their healthcare needs. And so definitely authenticity is very, very important when we sit down with the audiences that we're sitting down with.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, they're gonna know, especially the seniors. I mean, they're wise. Like they've been in the world a lot longer than me, and they know what's going on and who's in it for the wrong reasons. But when you are doing things for the right reasons, then you're genuinely care about your clients, then it works out. So
Yeah, and I go back to what you talked about value. Earlier on is that I teach a lot of the agents because I run the day-to-day operations here for the Medicare gurus and I teach a lot of our agents to provide value and the money will be there, right?
exactly.
The money value, it's just this principle that the universe, God, whatever you believe in, has set in that if you just provide value to your clients, the money will be there. But so many new agents seem to chase the money over the value and they get it backwards. Have you seen that in any experience in working with agents?
We do. I mean, I agree with you. If you take care of people, it will just, everything else will take care of itself. I mean, it's proven. I mean, it may be hard to believe that at first when you're just trying to pay your light bill and your rent.
Right.
So I understand where somebody's like, hey, I gotta sell, but I also know that I personally can't sell something if it's not right.
Yeah.
I just have this moral compass in me that's like, we're not doing this.
Right.
I've walked away from many sales and they become clients later.
Yeah.
And I mean, and it's okay. And there were times that I really needed the money too, but I just can't do it.
Yeah. No, I love what you're saying there because I think that's very, very important when it comes to having real success. I mean, you can be successful just chasing commissions, but want to sleep good at night, want to know that we added value to our clients, want to know we put them on the right plans. And so I always love when I hear other people that are built that same way, that want to do what's best for the client. And I'm like you, I've walked away from things, but it's interesting how the universe or God brings it back to you.
It all comes because here's the thing is you're building a reputation, right? And it doesn't matter if you live in Houston, Texas or Tupelo, Mississippi, it will get out.
That's right.
And the thing is if I walked away from a sale when I first started as a broker, not knowing how to market. This is back when there were no CMS guidelines.
Right.
And I actually ended up getting that sale later, but because of the sale, when I walked away, I knew that her doctor was terminating a plan. So then I was able to go and talk to the doctor and she called on my behalf and said, hey, my agent's going to come talk to you, even though I wasn't even her agent. Wow. And I can't remember why. I don't. But anyway, so I was able to get a doctor and get leads out of it anyway. So it worked out. But the thing is, you're building a reputation. So if you come from a good place, then everything, again, it'll just work out. But also as an agent, you can't just be so tunnel vision. You have to keep your ears open for the opportunities as well, because there's plenty of times an agent's like, oh, their doctor's dropping the plan. I'm like, great, you should go visit the doctor. They're like, what? And so, it's just it's just being in the right place at the right time sometimes, but at the same time, if you genuinely take care of people, they will be your best referral source and they will get you into key relationships.
Absolutely. Well, you've been so generous with your time today, and I know you're busy, and I appreciate you being on, but I always like to ask this as we get ready to close here is, so I have a diverse audience. I have many of them are in the insurance space, whether that's Medicare, under 65, ACA, combination of all those. But we also just have entrepreneurs in general that watch this. And I have found that when I interview leaders like yourself, no matter what industry, there's just common threads. And so really, when I started this, I just really wanted to interview top leaders and say, what are some words of advice? Like if someone's out there today watching, and not just an insurance agent, just someone who's saying, I'm ready to bet on myself. I'm ready to step out and do something. What is some success advice or leadership advice? Maybe some first words that you would give to that person who maybe is just getting started and really wanting to bet on themselves to win?
Well, first, you have to get around the right people. That is, I mean, if you're starting when you don't know anybody and you're getting into any industry, it doesn't matter what industry it's in, because I've been in several.
Sure.
You want to make sure that the people you're around are supporting you, because I mean, I've been in sales, and when sales is down, it is tough.
Right.
And you need people that are like there to clap for you, to keep you going, not enable you. I mean, you do want some accountability, but I think being around the right people, but I also think the most important thing is holding yourself accountable. Whatever you need to do whatever it takes to get it done, is you have to start pointing the finger at yourself. So as long as you do that, you will not fail. You just won't. I mean, you may go through some failures, but that's not failing.
Right.
That's getting you to the next level, right? So that's just experience. And so I think having a good group of people that you're around, whether it's your family, your friends, having a positive environment, and then also holding yourself accountable. I think between those two things, I mean, I think that the sky's the limit for people.
So maybe for someone who doesn't have a lot of money, to invest in a coach, because I know, many of us have invested in coaches to help us get to that next level. What would you say would be for someone who may not have a lot of money, they're starting? What would you say would be one of the best practices of accountability?
I think that, well, first of all, the internet is full of, like YouTube is full of a lot of coaches have free content on there to kind of help with the mindset and get your mindset in the right spot, because that is where the accountability will kind of start coming in. I mean, there's tons of books at the library, because I've been there, I've been broke, and I've gone there to do some research on some things. But I mean, for me, to hold yourself accountable, I mean, you don't need a coach to do that. You need to write down what you're great at. I mean, you need to write down what you're terrible at, and you need to hold yourself accountable to improving what you're terrible at.
Right.
You gotta improve your weaknesses. So you don't like to talk to people, guess what you're gonna do? You're gonna go to the grocery store and you're gonna start talking to some people.
Yeah.
That costs nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's that's something that I still struggle with, is trying to write down my weaknesses and be honest with myself. I pray about it, and I really just try to improve it, because sometimes I don't make it a priority, but I do know that when I make those weaknesses my strength, everything else will just start flowing the right way.
Sure. No, I think that's great advice. That I agree. It's part of that uncomfortable, right? Writing those down. I think some of us get scared to really write those weaknesses down because it's in writing, it's in paper. Now we have to face it. And the reality is we're just really this close, many of us that are watching, from a breakthrough. If we would just tackle them and just go after it and have that higher level of accountability. So the next question is, there's some that are watching this that may be struggling. Maybe they're about to quit. What is some advice that you would give to someone who's just ready to give up on their dreams, whether it's an insurance, home-based business, or whatever industry? What are some words of advice that you would give to that person?
So I heard this actually at an event we were at, and it made a lot of sense because sometimes we can be so critical of ourselves, like on our weaknesses, on our failures, that we don't really appreciate the good things that we do every day, you know? So I like to wake up every morning and be grateful for what I have. That just changes your mindset in general. But at the event that we went to, they said when you give up on your dreams, you could be, I guess, impacting someone else that they wouldn't be able to accomplish their dreams.
Wow.
You know, so I think it was at Nate Offord's event at SWAT is what he, you know, and it's true. Like if I gave up the first time I failed, we wouldn't have an agency and we wouldn't have a staff and they wouldn't have a job and they wouldn't have the life change. And it's just like a cycled effect, right? So I don't want to give up because I don't want to let other people down. But that's what motivates me. Not everybody's motivated by that, right? So I just think that you know, you got to push through the darkest of days because there is always sunshine on the other end, you know? Like my grandmother said, sweet wouldn't be sweet without sour.
There you go. There you go. And that is so true. You just, you know, I like to say it this way. As a pastor, I said this, and even as just someone who just loves to motivate people, is that I believe God does his best work in us in the toughest seasons. We grow those tough seasons. We're forged, we're you know, molded and shaped in those tough seasons. And I think a lot of people don't realize how tough they really are. You know, we tend to think tough as muscles or tough as this or that. But I think some people don't give themselves enough credit that what they've been through, that they're really tougher than they think.
Yeah, I mean, I've been embarrassed in front of a room full of people, and I could have chose to not show up the next day, but I chose to show up and own it because what was said was true and I needed to hear it and so that I can improve, you know? So we are molded during our toughest of days. That's how our minds, that's how we become wiser. You know, if we all just stayed in our little comfortable beds, one, we'd be broke, but two, we wouldn't ever feel life. And feeling life is about going through all of the seasons. You can't enjoy the great seasons if you don't have the tough ones. So, but that's also why I don't pray for patience, because God likes to test your patience. So I just said, I'm very patient. I'm patient. Thank you for all of that.
In this industry, there's a lot of testing of the patience. That's there definitely is, especially in the
so I do not pray for that anymore. I don't recommend anyone else to either.
Well, listen, you definitely have been spitting fire this whole podcast. You know, I'm so thankful that you've been generous with your time today and so grateful that you would come on. I love meeting leaders like yourself. And so thank you, a genuine thank you to you for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And whenever you want to do it again, we can do it again.
Absolutely. Well, guys, listen, I want to just remind you again to make sure to subscribe, make sure to comment, make sure you tag someone, share this with somebody who needs to hear this, right? That needs to get out of the comfortable and learn what it means to be uncomfortable to achieve their dreams, their goals, and their visions. And my prayer that this has put fresh wind in your sails to keep you going. Don't give up. I believe that you were made on purpose to live on purpose. You deserve to win. If no one's told you that today, you deserve to win. And just want to say thank you for joining us today. Have an awesome day, and we'll see all of you guys soon.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.